Accenture, GE, SAP, Google, Intel are just some of the companies. It's an otherwise longer list than this. Pune is a services. Well, however, if we look at this particular list of established centers, it gives us the notion that India apparently has done a better job in spreading the opportunities into other cities. Because as far as this particular list is concerned, the Philippines is only represented by one particular city. We're also looking at emerging centers. And this is where it becomes interesting because it's not only India-focused, although the Philippines has one particular city that is included in this list, which is Cebu City. And a lot of people are already anticipating that because of the recent activities in Cebu, this will eventually be part of the emerged list of outsourcing locations. Now, Cebu City has a very high value processes in financial analytics, research and development, applications development, management. Currently, Tholons is doing a study together with the Cebu Investments Promotions Council to look at the talent capability of Cebu in its truest form so that more investments could actually come in. Just some of the companies established there would be Accenture, AWS, NCR, Lexsoft, Alliance Software, Sykes Asia. Just recently, JP Morgan and Chase also opened the center there. And in China, however, there are three major cities that form the emerging centers list. And that would be Shanghai, Beijing, and Shenzhen. Now, if you look at comparing the cities in China against those in India, which is a bit more diverse, and the Philippines, which is a bit more voice-centric than anything else, you could see that China is making a very strong presence in software development and into ITO. Now, companies established here would be IBM, World Software Services, and that's basically in Shanghai. Infosys is also here, Accenture, Sitel, and ACS. For Beijing, it's SAP, Tumbleweed Communications, IBM, BTC International, OPI Global, as well as HP. And then some of the companies doing software development, ADM, R&D, and finance and accounting outsourcing. In Shenzhen would be IBA Group, Honeywell, SGI, Accenture is also there, IBM, CSC, Deloitte, Ernst & Young, as well as Genpact. Manuel, I think, reiterated quite well that there's a lot of interest in tapping the domestic market in China, which is the reason why a lot of MNCs are actually migrating to China and establishing their presence there. Now, Vietnam has an overwhelming value proposition also in terms of attracting investments coming in. And this is evidenced by the growth in both Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh. Now, engineering services outsourcing is quite strong in Hanoi. HTP, IBM, VT, Comtech, Equant, and then Contact Center Vietnam are one of the some of the companies that call Hanoi their home. And Teledata, VPT, Jupiter Systems, as well as FPT, just to name but a few, are some of the companies that are in Ho Chi Minh doing ESO software development, as well as some pieces of contact support services. Moving on to slide 16, looking at the challenges and opportunities in this particular region. We basically identified two aspects. One of them is what would be the key accelerators for this particular region. And the second aspect, of course, is what inhibits them from experiencing further growth. Now, if you look at the first bullet point, globally, the strongest cluster of countries for outsourcing would be the combination of India, Philippines, China, Vietnam, Singapore, Malaysia, and Sri Lanka. Now, the demand is quite strong, as Manuel has mentioned earlier, and a lot of appetite in exploring opportunities in these countries is actually happening. And upon our consultations with our different clients, we're looking at a lot of companies looking into the countries that I have just identified. But more than just the countries, they're looking at the particular cities that are already emerging, and that's basically on our radar. Now, these countries within the region have the most mature incentives for outsourcing industry, and comparatively speaking, against nearshore locations like Canada and Latin America, as well as Eastern Europe, the appeal of the incentives that are put on the table by the respective governments of India, Philippines, China, Vietnam, for instance, don't really compare in terms of what it gives to its particular locator. So the strength of these countries is really in the way they have configured the incentive schemes and packages that they give their relocators. In the Philippines, for instance, there is a government body called the Philippine Economic Zone Authority that basically takes care of the incentives that are being given to locators in a particular area that is defined as an economic zone. It is also one of the key accelerators is that the region is key to global outsourcing strategy for all organizations. And I guess it has a lot to do with the fourth bullet point, which is the huge employable pool as the result of quality education, which is basically conducive for IT. And the cost, however, is the numbers keep on changing. But if we look at benchmarking this against a full-time equivalent in the US or in the UK, you're looking at almost 1:6, or which goes all the way to about 1:12. Now, cultural affinity to the client market, supported by linguistic compatibility, is also one of the appealing factors why this region is so robust in terms of servicing global requirements for outsourcing. For instance, the Philippines, more or less, is the educational system is patterned with the U.S. as well as the laws and the policies that are put in place in Philippine society. They more or less mirror that of the U.S. Now, a lot of discussion has been going on in advisory circles, wherein some are saying that the UK market is actually more compatible with India more than any other country in the region. Although from a growth perspective, we could see that there's a merry mix of requirements being serviced out of the client nations from all the different countries within the region. Now, these countries have also invested in world-class infrastructure to house delivery centers, the data centers that support it, research and development, as well as innovation labs, to get ahead of the curve in terms of what their clients would be looking for. Now, Manuel also touched on the SMB sector a while ago, and we've experienced this particularly in the Philippines, and I guess the same holds true for India as well as China, that during the recession, we've seen a great number of small to medium enterprises look into the possibility of outsourcing to what we would call the real offshore locations, which is more or less the region of Asia. Now, however, there are accelerators, but there are also key inhibitors. Now, one of them is one of the things that we measure for the Tholons Top 50 study before, which is now transitioned into the Top 100 study, and that is the quality of life. No, the infrastructure is developed by leaps and bounds in the countries that are being discussed here, but it is also difficult to retain top-level management because constantly the quality of life aspect kicks in, and competition becomes very, very stiff. That's why countries, the countries and the cities in this region more or less put attrition levels as well as retention as one of the most important factors in terms of looking at their operating business units. Now, there's also the socio-political risk, which I guess it's public knowledge to everyone. There are, several issues that hound the countries in the region in terms of terrorism. The crime rates are also put into focus, political instability, and some of the risks that client nations are actually putting very, very strong importance to. And same with the Eastern Europe discussion last week. There's also a key inhibitor in terms of corruption. There are varying levels of corruption in Asia, which often leads to additional costs, and these costs are not necessarily noticeable up front, which is one of the things that client nations hesitate about. The trend is expected to subside as governments are becoming more aware of export contribution from all of these offshore services centers. Aside from the fact that BPO and outsourcing in general has greatly affected GDPs of the offshore nations, more and more emphasis is actually being focused on to curb corruption. For the Philippines, newly installed President Benigno Aquino Jr. gives special emphasis in using technology to actually curb corruption. So now the focus in the Philippines, more than anything else as far as government is concerned, is more geared towards government outsourcing than anything else. Well, with that, I think I wrap up my piece of the presentation for this particular webinar. I hand it over back to you, Ed.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Jonathan and Manuel, for the excellent presentation. A lot of data, a lot of insights into what's been happening in this region, as well as a very good job in terms of putting the overall dynamics, into proper context. I have a few questions that have come up from the participants here. One of the questions would actually require us to go back to slide number 4. And the question is a better explanation of the graph on the left side of slide number 4. I think this slide was taken up by Manuel.
Manuel, I think you're in the best position to actually explain this particular slide.
Right. So the graph here on slide 4 essentially is IT spending for the global IT spending. So it's a split between IT spending and BPO.
Okay, so this indicates spending in billions of dollars, or?
Right, in billions.
Okay. Okay, so that pretty much explains it. Okay, another question I have is, why are places like cities like Dhaka, Bangladesh's capital, why is it not amongst this list of outsourcing destinations? Why doesn't it even feature in the South Asian region?
Right. So, I mean, there's a numerous host of factors that we consider when looking at locations, and it could be from beginning to the security risk to the environmental risks in the particular locations. So those are all areas that we consider.
Just to